Hi everybody, this is John Lang. Welcome to the John Lang Music Channel once again. And today we're going to talk about the worst snubs by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame once again. And this is my 2024 edition. I've done a couple of other ones, but fortunately we've had a couple of them actually get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Namely Pat Benatar and Foreigner is going in. Pat got in last year and Foreigner is going in this year. So we are seeing a little bit of progress from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Also, Peter Frampton is going in this year. Well deserved and long overdue. So I think with Jan Winter leaving, that has a lot to do with all these changes that are happening. And I'm hoping in the future we'll see some of these long overdue 70s bands finally make their way in. But in the meantime, there's some that are just so long overdue that it's just getting kind of ridiculous. So originally I was going to do the top 5 worst, but I had a list of 6 and I just didn't feel like cutting one of them out, so I'm going to do a list of 6. So here we go, and I'm going to tell you a few things about the band, and then we'll see if you can guess who they are, and I'll tell you who they are. We'll see if you can guess before I get to that point. So number 6, and this band was formed around 1973. They had 8 gold albums, 3 6x platinum albums, a platinum live album. And this is a band that is really pretty different than a lot of bands from the 70s. They added some extra orchestration to their albums, namely a violin that really you didn't see much. Maybe a couple bands did it, but like ELO put in some strings in their music, but for the most part it was pretty different. And they had some longer songs. They actually came from more of a prog rock background, but they eventually got to where they had some top 40 hits, and one of their songs is actually one of the top 5 most played classic rock radio songs. And they've really influenced a lot of people. That their songs have been covered by bands like Dream Theater, the Foo Fighters, the Scorpions, the Oak Ridge Boys. They've influenced people like Garth Brooks and Brian May. And the band I'm talking about is Kansas. And they just have been so influential on a lot of people. They blazed their own trail. Had so much good music, like their albums Left Overture, Song for America. They had plenty of really great songs, a couple classic rock staples, like I say, Carry On Wayward Son, Dust in the Wind. I think they should be in, and they're long overdue. Number 5. This band started out way back in 1969, and they blazed a trail. They were just a 3-piece band, and they had 13 gold records, 10 platinum albums. In 1971, they actually sold out Shea Stadium in 72 hours. They sold it out quicker than the Beatles did, believe it or not. And to add insult to injury to them not being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in 1998 they were invited to perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they donated some of their items for a display there, but yet they didn't get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. So it's kind of ridiculous. And one of their songs was just an anthem for soldiers fighting in the Vietnam War. They influenced bands of the likes of Aerosmith, Kiss, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, and I'm talking about Grand Funk, formerly Grand Funk Railroad, and they eventually shortened their name, but just so many big hits. They started out more of a rock band, and they eventually got to where they had a few pop hits as well, but just no reason they shouldn't be in, long overlooked by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so let's get them in. Number 4. And this band has been around since 1973. And I would say personally that they have one of the finest singers in rock and roll. Just he has a real bluesy quality to him that you don't hear that much. And not only is this band not in, but his previous band also should really be in as well. Their first album went to number 1. over 40 million records sold. They were basically a super group because everybody in the band had been in some pretty big bands already. And they had the same manager as Led Zeppelin, Peter Grant. And they influenced the likes of Def Leppard, Brian May, Sam Moore. And I'm talking about Bad Company. And of course, Paul Rodgers was in Free before that, and that another band that should also be in. But I would say Bad Company probably had more influence just for the simple fact that they had a lot more hits and were a lot more visible. So let's get them in, people. Number 3. And this band has been together since 1972 in different forms, originally from Chicago. In the 70s, they had 4 straight multi-platinum albums, 16 top 40 singles. They've sold over 35 million albums. And they were never really popular with the critics. They were the band that the critics just loved to hate for some reason back in the 70s. They were labeled as corporate or arena rock, and that was a nasty word back then. If you got labeled that, there were just certain places that you were not appreciated. And I think that's gradually changing, but it's taken a while. But the band I'm talking about is Styx, and just a ton of hits, a lot of radio hits, a lot of classic albums that are just staples of rock radio. And of course, they've been playing and playing. They haven't had Dennis DeYoung for a while, but they replaced him with Lawrence Gowan, and they've been up to the current day still playing and still making money. So that's another one that gets my vote. Number 2. And this band has been together since 1975. They've sold 75 million albums worldwide. The first album is the biggest selling debut in rock history, and it took the band leader 6 years to record, and he did almost all of it himself, aside from using a drummer and a singer. But he spent so much time recording it, running the tape through the machine over and over, that he about wore the tape out. But they finally did get a record deal, and the record company insisted that they re-record the album, which was kind of ridiculous because it sounded so good. So he just the leader of the band just kind of played a trick on him and just took and re-recorded the album in his home studio, but just took it to a studio and just had them put the finishing touch on it, say it was all recorded at the studio. And I think one song on the album they actually did record at the studio, but the record company loved it and put it out. And not only that, but the leader of the band has just been so influential on rock guitar because he invented things like the Rockman, which is a little guitar amplifier. It was originally a headphone guitar amplifier, and then he expanded it to be preamps. And you have certain people like Mutt Lange used all Rockman products almost exclusively, like for recording Def Leppard's Hysteria album, which is just a massive album. But anyway, of course, I'm talking about Boston, and just so influential that they developed a sound that really blazed their own trail, and it's just ridiculous that they're not in yet. So that's my pick there. And finally, number 1. And I have put them on my list before, although I don't think I've put them, well, yeah, maybe I did have them this high on one of my lists. They've sold over 40 million records worldwide. They formed in 1977. They've won 6 Grammys. They've had over 3.4 billion streams on Spotify. And one of the really remarkable things about them is that the musicians on their own and together sometimes have played with other people in the studio musicians, and they played on 5,000 albums that have sold over 500 million alone. So you want to talk about influence. I don't know how much more influential you could be. They were just all over rock radio in the 70s and 80s. Anyway, I'm talking about Toto. just and they're a worldwide band, just loved by people all over the world, still out there playing. Unfortunately, their singer Bobby Kimball is having kind of a hard time health-wise. They're doing a documentary on him, so we're looking forward to seeing that. And they've had some legal problems too, but they're still out there playing, and I think they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, no questions asked. Anyway, those are my picks. I'd be curious to know what yours are. Leave a comment, and thanks for listening. Bye.